Yeah, it's up there now. Let's get started on part two. So for part two, we'll cover general usage. And to me, that consists of internet browsing in this day and age. Nobody really does much that doesn't require an internet browser. So that's what we'll use. We'll start with Edge. Edge seems to run a little better. We'll just see how long it takes everything to come up, just the basic home page, and we'll go over to my YouTube channel. Get the time it takes. Load the page. Still waiting. There it is. Hit videos. Waiting on it to load. And we'll click on part one. Waiting, waiting, waiting. And actually, I know for sure. Come on, stop. There we go. I know for sure that it will do 720/60, so we'll just go ahead. Lagginess. We'll just go ahead and lock it in to that setting. And hit play. As you can see, it plays just fine. There's no stuttering. The audio is always in sync. And that's been my experience with using YouTube on this device with the Edge browser. Now, for comparison's sake, both to Edge and a later comparison that you'll see, we'll go ahead and open up Chrome, which is the most popular browser. You'll just see the difference in time it takes to do anything. We're ready to go. Click on my YouTube channel, the quick link. Still waiting. Still waiting. There it is. Click on videos. There we go. Click on part one. And we'll lock it at 720/60. And I do know that it really doesn't handle this too well. See the stutter there. Freeze. Freeze. Stutter. Freeze. Stutter. You get the point. Now, it's generally been my experience in Chrome that when you go to YouTube to play a video, I had 720/60 videos up. It won't do 720/30 either. The most it seems it'll handle without stuttering or having to buffer all the time is 480p, which comparatively to the Edge that can handle 720/60 is really low. But we'll keep using Chrome and we'll go to other websites. So to represent a website with a shitload of ads, we'll go to IGN. Everyone's favorite website to bash on. Waiting, waiting. Okay, starting to pop up. Still no text. Load, load. Trying to scroll. Let's go back up. Come on, come on. Let's see. We'll click on this article about Zelda. See how long it takes to actually load. Trying to scroll. Trying to scroll. Super laggy. But I do know that once the site does load, which, you know, God knows how long that's going to take per page, uh, it smooths out a whole bunch. But man, does it take a while. Now, for comparison, we'll go to a game website that doesn't have really any ads at all, exclusively games. And you see the difference in website performance. Like we're loaded in and good to go. Kind of crazy, huh? How ads just kill the experience of browsing internet on this. And look, well, we'll click on here. Here's a Zelda article. Boom, we're ready to go. So, if you browse websites that don't have shitloads of ads, you're good to go. But that's barely any websites today. But you know, that's just Windows, and today you're not stuck with Windows. Operating system that I installed just as a cool experiment to see if it would work or not is an operating system called Phoenix OS, which is a fork of Android x86, which is a fork of Android just for x86 devices. I went to the website and picked auto install or auto detect and for the version that I needed. And out of that, it picked one based on Android 5 32-bit. And I went with that rather than trying to opt for 64-bit because only Intel processor setups are officially supported. My opinion, that's more for the graphics side of the equation, not for the CPU, because it really shouldn't matter. But you'll see why I think that in a minute. But for now, we'll start Phoenix OS. When you install it, it puts a little icon on your desktop. Yes. And then also when you boot, if you've ever had a dual boot machine, you get options when you start your computer up on which operating system you want to boot. And we're in. The cool thing is once you're in, you can immediately just start firing apps up and it's all ready to go. Now, the cool thing about having an Android install on your computer is Google Play works, and you can log into your Google account and you have access to all the apps that you would have purchased or just installed on your phone. I mean, it's the same account. And most of the apps work perfectly fine. The only thing is that some 3D apps don't quite work right, and I'll show you that. Of course, I had mentioned in the first video about the Final Fantasy games. I have Final Fantasy 3 on Windows through Steam, but I have Final Fantasy 4 on Android. And the two games, no matter the operating system, functionally operate the same. Oh, hold on. There we go. I mean, no hiccups. No, nothing. Loads quick. Everything you would expect. Game runs fine. Now another example of a game that fundamentally works, but is glitchy, and its rendering is Pokemon Shuffle. And you'll see here once you get kind of in the game that I don't think the houses should be rendering off the screen. I could be wrong. I played this a really, really long time ago when it first came out, and I haven't played it ever since. But, you know, like stuff up here, it's rendering off in the black. Yeah. Then once you get into it, you see up here, it's just going nuts. The little icons up here, here, I'll bring the camera in. Little icons up here are like flying, like rendering constantly, like off into the distance. But anyway, something else is that when you move it around, the transparency seems to half the frame rate. Not all the time, but most of the time. So like I said, perfectly playable with some issues that really doesn't even matter in the rendering. Now, another example of a game that just flat out doesn't work is XCOM Enemy Unknown, which I have the mobile version of, and it doesn't even give you the option to even try it. Now, one thing I do know is if it doesn't work, that particular game, if it doesn't work with your phone, or in this case, it's spoofed phone, it just won't show up. Now, it's not an x86 problem, because at the time that I bought it, I had a Zenfone 2, which was a Intel Atom based phone, which, if you don't know, is x86. And I played it just fine on that phone, but for whatever reason, it doesn't want to work on that. It's probably a driver issue, because this has just generic drivers. But something to think about. Now, something that you can do in the Android environment that you can't do in the Windows environment on this hardware is video streaming. And for this, we'll use my Prime Video account. It doesn't work at all on Windows. The stream hitches and stuff, but it plays just fine on this. For an example, we'll use Angry Video Game Nerd, because his stuff is on Prime. Way we won't get copyright stuff. Look, it runs just fine. I don't have the sound hooked up. Doesn't seem to be able to play audio over HDMI on Android, but I mean, it is what it is. Works just fine. The point of using Chrome earlier was because Chrome comes installed by default on Android. So we'll go ahead and highlight the differences of browsing the internet on Android. So we'll go to IGN first. Notice the website loads a lot faster. I mean, still, it doesn't load like a fast computer would, but there's no lag in loading the pages and scrolling. I mean, it's super smooth. Click on article, change pages. Not perfect, but it runs a lot better than Chrome on Windows. I'll go ahead and close that. We'll go to exclusively games now and see it works exactly the same. No difference. One of the unfortunate things is that the YouTube app on Android doesn't work. So you actually have to use Chrome and the mobile site to use it. Some sort of driver issue, I'm pretty sure. But it does work, kind of. So let's go to my channel. And pull up part 1. The difference here is that this struggles and can barely handle 360p video, whereas on Windows, it could do 480 if you were using Chrome. Of course, now it's wigging out. But I would say that browsing YouTube is not very enjoyable. So with seeing all that, you might be wondering what to do with this hardware. With simple things like browsing the internet being a chore and having an extremely limited library of games you can play, you might think now's the time to throw it away. I say not so fast, because in part 3 I will show you some cool, useful things you can do with an E350 based computer, so stick around. Dude, Solitaire pegs the CPU.